Hello my friends and welcome to another good to great guide, part of my series on Panzer Corps 2. This is actually going to be a really simple one, believe it or not. So we're going to talk about artillery and I guess by extension anti-tank and anti-air. But more specifically about artillery. So unfortunately, artillery is actually kind of one-dimensional in this game, because only one of the artillery pieces is actually any good. Well, that's a lie. Two of them are good, but only one is actually good for general use, and the other one is quite specialist. And it actually feels a bit of a shame compared to Panzer Corps 1, where you had this progression of artillery and it was all getting better and nicer and more interesting and so on and so forth. It's not the case, and I'm gonna in Panzer Corps 2, and I'm gonna explain why, and then it will sort of be obvious to you. So, you start the game with two artillery, both of which are garbage. And the reason why is if you go to, so let's just dismiss some units here, just to make the point. Okay, so you go to buy an artillery piece, and you have all these choices. There are only two choices here, and that is this 15cm and this, the 21cm. And the funny part is, you'll still be using the 15cm and the 21cm basically all the way until the end of the game. The reason why is because all of the other artillery, including all future ones that get ever better statistics and look more attractive, although they don't really get much better statistics than these two, to be honest. These actually just come out of the field, you know, out of the box at the beginning of the game. They actually come with great stats. The main issue is that the role of artillery is to defend your units, okay? It's not to actually pick infantry out of cities, although that's what you will use it for. But when you're picking infantry out of cities, you are also protecting your units from being damaged. So here's the thing. The 15cm has got artillery support and AT support. And the 21cm has got counterbattery and AT. All the others have just got artillery support. And that's the issue, is that they've only got artillery support. So they will never be any good. And you'll get loads of new artilleries that only have artillery support. And they're not good for that exact reason. So let me explain why. So let's purchase one of these. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. And this. And this. And this. Okay, so I'm just going to clean up all my units here. I'll purchase a couple of these just to show off the point. So how this works is, when you have AT support, it means that if I place this down here, say here. Okay, so what this means is, if you have a unit here, 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 or here, if you have a unit touching this artillery, it will defend that unit if the attacker is a tank. Or it will defend that unit if the attacker is type soft. So AT support means it will defend the unit if the attacker is type hard. And then obviously artillery support means it will defend it if it's type soft. The thing is, there are both deadly hard and soft things out there that will come after you. For example, recon cars, some of them are soft, some of them are hard. But they will come after weak points in your defenses, especially when you're on the attack, or indeed if you're on the defense too. likewise, you'll have infantry come after you, which most artillery has got support soft. But you'll also have tanks come after you, and most artillery, apart from this one, has not got support hard. You'd have to use separate anti-tank. The thing is, the power of artillery diminishes massively if you have separate support soft and support hard. So you see this cavalry here. If I had support hard artillery and support soft, or like anti-tank gun, which is support hard, and an artillery piece that supports soft, all the cavalry will do is just run and attack my soft artillery directly. And the one that support hard will sit there uselessly. Conversely, if this were a tank, and it's the hard type, it might go after my support hard artillery directly, and then leave the soft one will not respond at all. But when you have two that both have this trait, it means that if this cavalry were to attack this one would respond. And if it were to attack this one, then this one would respond. And if it were a tank, the same thing would happen. Now when you have three of them, it gets even more silly. Because now, if this cavalry attacks this one, these two will respond. And so on. If any attack is going to result in a double response. So a double response plus obviously the unit that they're attacking is also going to get to fight back at some point. So it basically feels to me like tactically this is the only actual artillery worth using. And it deters the enemy from attacking you, both when you're on the attack and when you're on the defense. So with the enemy in the city here, when you have an infantry in this tile and you put an artillery behind it, what you're basically saying is you're attacking the city, and on the enemy's turn you're discouraging them from attacking you back because your artillery is there. Which is important because, in a case of infantry versus infantry, your infantry is going to lose against the one entrenched in the city, even if you attack first. But with the artillery behind it, it's not just the fact that the artillery weakened the enemy in the city, it's also that the artillery behind it means that if the infantry attacks you, their attack is going to be severely blunted before it even engages you. And that's the real power of artillery, is actually to defend your units, to defend your push, to defend your positions. And this is the only one that's got both soft and hard together. So it's really the only artillery worth having for that role, which is the main role of artillery. So all the other stuff, the rocket launchers, the friggin' 6-barreled rotary tube guns, all that stuff has only got counterattack soft. So it's basically useless. Because all that will happen is your front line might be here, 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 or whatever. You might have a front line. And the AI will just attack you with tanks, knowing that your artillery won't respond. Now, you might say, well, then I could just have a load of anti-tank. Well, that's great, but then you'll get attacked by infantry and other soft units from time to time. It's just not flexible. You don't know what you're going to be attacked by, so you want to be defended against all possibilities. Now, the funny part was, in Panzer Corps 1, artillery responded to everything. It just responded to everything, to hard, to soft, and it counter-batteried. It was the whole package. Every piece did everything. And so on that note, you could just constantly upgrade your artillery and try out fancy new ones and all that kind of stuff. But in this game, they're all worthless. They're actually all genuinely worthless compared to the 15cm gun. Now, there is one artillery which you should have one of that does have two traits, but it's two different traits. It has AT support and counter-battery. And what this does is, apart from the fact that it's a really powerful piece of artillery, counter-battery works slightly differently in that counter-battery triggers if an enemy artillery in the range of the gun fires at anything in the range of the protection of the weapon. So basically, if it was like here, it's got like a range of 5, so it's pretty insane. I think it's got a range of 5 or 4. It's got some pretty insane range, this gun. 4. If in that umbrella of 4 range there is an enemy artillery anywhere, and that artillery attacks one of your units that is also in that umbrella, it will be shot at, and it will be shot at first. It basically allows you to just completely shut down enemy artillery. They just can't do anything. And the fact that it also has hard support is nice. It gives it some flexibility. But I only keep 1 because I only need 1. Generally speaking, the enemy has only got maybe 3 or 4 artillery pieces per map in various places, and you can bring out your counter-battery artillery for the express purpose of removing those. But once again, because it doesn't counter soft, it does have a level of vulnerability that you wouldn't have with the 10cm gun. So it's not ideal for using to protect your front lines unless you sandwich it. That is to say, so my end game composition involves 4 artillery. So, you know, in this case, if this cavalry attacks this artillery, it's going to be counter-batteried by both of these. The other formation which you may want to try is this one. If it lets me deploy, there we go. So this basically means that if anyone attacks this, they're going to be counter-batteried by all of this. And if they attack any of these, you know, there's going to be at least 1. But you can see that the formation is much weaker than what it would be with 3 that actually have soft and hard support together. If this cavalry attacks here, it's only going to be counter-batteried by 1. Or if it attacks here, it's only going to be counter-batteried by 1. This coverage is perfect for against hard, because they've all got the support hard type. But they don't all have the support soft type, so you have a vulnerability that you wouldn't normally have. And so I keep that for removing enemy artillery. With its huge range, you can park it just sort of here or here behind the front line where you're engaging the city, and actually smash artillery that's behind. And of course, its presence, the counter-battery tag, its presence means that artillery cannot fire, because you will shoot first. Your counter-battery will go off first before their attack does. So any attack that they might make will not only result in them taking casualties, but only a couple of the artillery will actually fire at all. So here, we'll see if this cavalry attacks me. Oh, the infantry did. So you see, the infantry went after this artillery, but all of them responded. Now, of course, you normally wouldn't have your artillery just totally exposed like this, but you can see that even with your artillery actually totally exposed like this, on your turn, this infantry has actually been suppressed incredibly strongly and taken a few losses, and so has the cavalry. So if you had units available, you could quite readily clean them up. Of course, I didn't deploy any units because I'm just talking about artillery today. Now, one last thing I want to say is that anti-tank guns and anti-aircraft guns have also got the anti-tank support trait. So you'll notice it here. AT support trait. All of them will have it. Same with the anti-aircraft guns. When they are in AT mode, they will have the AT support trait. Anti-aircraft guns, they work very simply in that if an aircraft attacks a unit in the coverage, then they get fired upon. It's pretty simple. But yeah, you can... There's a funny thing where if you're facing nothing but tanks, when you start getting the high-end anti-tank guns that are actually just literally basically tanks like the Dickermax and so on, they're actually way better against tanks as a group because they all have the anti-tank support trait, which works exactly as demonstrated here with the artillery. So when you have a pair of, say, Dickermax anti-tank guns next to each other and a tank attacks you, which the AI is actually quite good about not attacking that situation because they know they're going to get a mauling. The Dickermaxes will support each other, so one will support in defense of the other, and then the engagement will happen, which means that you'll actually win tank versus tank fights very easily if you have a wall of Dickermaxes or some other kind of anti-tank gun. But they do have horrible anti-soft stats. So one strategy you might want to consider, if you are desperate to use the bigger, badder, statistically more interesting artillery that's anti-soft only, is to run a wall of anti-tank guns. And so this sort of line here might be my wall of anti-tank guns, and to put your anti-soft artillery behind it. That way, the anti-tank guns themselves are providing the hard support, and your artillery is providing the anti-soft. But it's quite convoluted, and I personally don't like it because I just don't think it's very flexible. I think the way that you want to play with artillery is to actually just run the 10cm guns. Sorry, the 15cm gun, because it works how artillery used to work in the in Panzer Corps 1, in that it counters both hard and soft, and so you're protected from, you know, the unknown threat. Unless you're going to memorize every single map, and, you know, if you start playing random skirmishes and all that kind of stuff, of course, then you can't memorize that. It's going to be random. You don't know what the threat is. You don't know what you're going to be facing. But artillery is vital in providing you with a disincentive for the enemy to attack you. And if you're not disincentivizing being attacked by both soft and hard, then the AI is going to simply pick a soft or hard unit and exploit that weakness in your defense, because the way the AI's brain works, it knows immediately anywhere where it can get a good amount of casualties on you with any particular unit, and it will just throw it at you to just do... All it wants to do is to do prestige damage to you. And it will. But with a 15cm gun, you don't leave yourself open to any possibilities, because you've got everything on lockdown with the twin support traits. And you can just keep your 21cm gun at the back to deal with enemy artillery as and when you encounter it. And so that's kind of it. It's a bit sad, really, actually. This is probably one of the weakest aspects of the game. I actually just think that pretty much all of the artillery in the game is just naff. And I've been using 15cm guns throughout the entirety of my Grand campaign to extreme success, and the AI very rarely attacks my front line because it's disincentivized by a wall of 15cm guns. And I have a purchase screen full of fun, interesting, exciting new artillery, and none of it is worth deploying because it doesn't have both anti-soft and anti-hard. And I'm not willing to build an army that is literally a wall of anti-tank guns with a wall of anti-soft artillery behind it, because it's not very flexible. And, you know, anti-tank's total inability to do anything about soft is a huge liability in a game that largely involves infantry walled up in cities that you want to deal with, but often backed up by anti-tank guns or a recon car or a tank or something sat behind the city waiting to sweep in should you show any weaknesses. So that's my opinions on artillery, but the way it works is pretty simple. If you use 15cm guns, you don't have to worry about it. You just know that your artillery will always support you as long as the unit being attacked is next to the artillery, and that includes other artillery. They'll support each other, and you can use them very flexibly to make sure that you never take any damage, or that any attack on you is going to be met with massive punishment. And that, you know, that suppression and damage is going to persist into your turn, so you can deliver a nasty counterattack. And you just don't get that with any of the other artillery. So I just don't deploy it. It's as simple as that. Anyway, I hope you guys found this insightful. It's a shame it's a bit simplistic, but that is the way the game is at this time. So I hope you found this interesting, and I will speak to you guys next time.